All right, so this is a data be nimble, data be quick, data be modeled for analysts. So we're going to talk about self-service analytics here. So if you mean to be somewhere else, now is your time to escape before we talk about data modeling.
We won't look.
All right. Shut the door. All right.
Good.
So welcome. I'm Ashley.
I'm Jason.
And Jason and I have 4 things in common. We each have 2 girls. We love University of Washington football. We both started our Tableau journeys as customers. And we each think that we have the best job at Tableau.
I do.
So Jason and I are on the same team. We manage the internal data warehouse and analytics program at Tableau. We evangelize analytics excellence internally, and when we get the chance, we really enjoy talking to our customers about what we do. We support 3,300 employees globally with 176 production server cores over 7 different deployments. Looks something like this. Alpo is our main corporate server. We like to dog food our own software, so it gets its name. And we have servers in UK and Singapore that support it. We also run an Alpo dev instance that takes new builds, even pre-beta, to get everything bugs checked out, and we make our development executives live with it for a little bit first. So you can be sure that they've felt the bugs before you guys do. We also use Tableau Online, and then our sales and marketing team each have an 8-core server in AWS.
Now internally, to enable and support our global end users that are in, 70 countries around the globe, we use one-on-one Tableau doctor support, just like you're getting here. We have a program for that internally. We run data academies and data guilds on topics such as color theory, data visualization best practices, even data science, pushing that throughout the organization. And then recently, as some of you also have as well, with data source certifications in Tableau Server, we've started a program to help our end users certify their data sources for use across all 3,500 employees. And we support all of this with an amazing team, just like a lot of you guys have, of program managers and data scientists, DBAs, data engineers, QA, test, that allow us to manage our analytics programs, our servers, our databases, and data sets from dozens of line of business applications.
All right. I've been at Tableau 4.5 years, and in my current role, me and my team are responsible for pushing Tableau to use Tableau better. We believe in self-service analytics, and within Tableau, we have a decentralized analytical team, meaning we have analysts embedded in each department throughout the company.
I have been with Tableau for 1 year as of last week, and it has been an amazing experience. I get to use some of the coolest tools and technologies to support Tableau internally. And so just support that self-service culture with technology that is supportive of our mission, not limiting or prescriptive in any way. And I work for a company that is so awesome that it allows me to spend as much time as I can with those 3 people that I miss like I can't believe right now. So before we get started, how about we collect some data? Who here, by raise of hands, has had a problem getting data to your end users? Anyone? Whoa. All right, keep them up, keep them up. Now, who's had a data project take too long or not deliver the value expected? Okay.
All right, don't worry, we've also had this challenge where we spend a ton of time on requirements and specs only to realize that the data that was requested wasn't as valuable as was their first thought.
All the while, we have these other data sources that just sit on the sidelines waiting to get into the game.
So to be clear, this isn't going to be a talk about Waterfall is bad or Agile is good. We've sat through those, and they usually don't give you much that's tangible.
And then you'll be like these guys. Also, this isn't going to be a Kimball versus Inman sword duel about which modeling is best. You're going to use modeling tools and techniques that are going to be specific to your industry, to your data platforms, to your company, and to your end users and customers.
Today, we want to give you tangible ways to use Tableau the way we use Tableau. And while some of that will involve using Tableau software, much of our own success has come from the culture of exploration that we have at Tableau and the autonomy that we give to each and every employee. These are just 6 vises that were created by people in our IT department to monitor the applications they manage.
Now combined, these cultural, interpersonal, and technology changes that we're going to talk about today are going to help you work the way that we work here at Tableau, where we want to eliminate our excess work, we want to increase data consumption, and we want to reduce the time to insight and action.
On stage at Keynote this week, you heard from our CEO, Adam Slepsky, bust the myth that there can be one perfect source of data truth. There is no gold standard data warehouse or data model that will make things perfect and wonderful. So we're here to talk to you about how Tableau can not only do well in an organization, but thrive in a world of many data sources. Our product and our company were built upon the idea that there is no single perfect way to interact with data. We give you choice. As a lifelong perfectionist, it's hard to admit that it can't be perfect sometimes.
Okay, so if perfection isn't our goal, then what is? At Tableau, our goal is to drive iterative value delivery. It's that simple.
To focus on the iterative process instead of perfection, we use 3 key principles: create, analyze, and evolve.
Okay, you're saying, Jason, if it's so simple, what holds us back? Usually, it's fear. Fear around governance or compliance fears, maybe data silos. You're afraid of having those in your organization. But for me, the biggest fear is not having the data that we need to make decisions to compete in today's marketplace. That's what drives me when I get to work in the morning, and unfortunately sometimes keeps me up at night.
So do you ever wonder who buys books in the airport? Well, I do when I travel for business, and I recently picked up this book called On Trails. And in it, Robert Moore talks about how creatures as small as ants or as large as elephants refine trails over time to find their optimal route. Each creature learns from those who went before them and optimizes the route just a little bit more for their peer who comes after. And when we combine our collective knowledge, it isn't necessarily about knowing the exact route to the data, but about the process to incrementally improve the data. We believe that governance should be about optimizing the route to data insight. So even if we start with a map, there is room for improvement to make the trip faster and richer.
Does this look familiar to anybody? In traditional or legacy BI processes, we follow a requirements gathering and various layers of modeling, and then we go into our dev, QA, release lifecycle, and you guys get the point. You've all been there.
But this takes weeks at best, if not months or quarters, before you can actually start interacting with and analyzing your data. And that's time we just don't have. There's real value in iterating your way towards the path sooner rather than later.
And at Tableau, we believe in being data-driven as soon as we can. So we take the path of the elephants. We take this serial process and we make it a cycle that keeps improving upon itself, where rapid prototyping is really our first goal in any sort of modeling activity. And as we go through this, we end up doing our modeling along the way. As we prototype, as we gain adoption, the serial modeling practices start to happen in conjunction. And we do all of this with Tableau.
When we get our end users access to native data, they are like the elephant starting the journey to find water. Even without a data model, our first principle is to start creating, to start walking in the general direction we think we want to go.
So it sounds a little bit crazy, right? To just dive in, start creating. What about governance? What about locking people down? Well, I can't govern what I don't understand. And the people that understand the data best should be the ones that are interacting with it as soon as possible. So by putting data in their hands early, I get to build that understanding. The understanding then drives our usage, adoption, and eventual evolution.
So let's take a look at how we create that initial engagement. Sometimes we just put it in a Google Sheet, and we connect to it there. And sometimes we load native, unadulterated data into the warehouse. In other cases, we connect directly to the source system with built-in connectors such as Salesforce or ServiceNow. And sometimes we just connect to a CSV. Do you want to take a look at our data? Yeah? Okay. That's right. We analyze data on our data. So the length of each bar represents the number of unique data sources on our main corporate server Alpo. These are colored by, in big blue, modeled data. This is mostly data in a SQL Server. And then that orange data is native connections to applications like ServiceNow, Eloqua. And then finally, on the bottom in red, that's our prepared data. Often, what we do is we use Alteryx to prep data in more complex situations and push it directly to Tableau's server on schedules. We also have a Redshift data warehouse for when we need to snapshot native connections or provide more storage options for our users. Some interesting trends emerge when we look at other measures instead of just how many data sources there are. So keep your eye on that orange bar of native data as we move across the viz. The second bar tells us that while the number of data, or the first bar tells us that while the number of data sources that are native and modeled are about the same, when you look at the second bar, you can see that the native data takes up far more space on our Alpo server. And if you move one step further, what we find interesting is the number of users per day, that orange bit up there, that are actually connecting directly out to native data on our Tableau server. And finally, that's the percent of views in the last 180 days that go back to a native data source. So we're going to look at that first initial view in another way. I've added extract type to color, and we can see that the majority of our data in teal is refreshable extracts. They just churn there with the backgrounders all throughout the day and night. Yellow is live data, and green is incremental refreshes. And that gray block on the bottom is data pushed to Tableau from Alteryx, so it doesn't actually have a refresh schedule in the repository. And it seems just like I would expect. People are by far using our data warehouse. But an interesting thing happens when I swap out the measures and replace count with size of data being stored. So this total view represents about 300 gigabytes of data on our Alpo server. And the modeled extracted data takes up very little room, as we would expect. It's extremely efficient due to the work that we've put in. And the incremental extracts from native connections take up by far the most storage space. So you might be wondering, why then do we let so much data sit on our server? Our data can be thought of as a network graph. We have nodes that represent business processes and our systems that all relate to one or more processes. Because regardless of whether data is formally or informally modeled, it still has value to our organization. There are a lot of people using data within each model type. Those are sort of the little bumps in the viz. But if you look at those lovely arches that span across the data, that's data that someone's used a cross-database join to connect from one system, one data storage system to another. And if we let that data sit in silos where others don't have access, where those connections can't be made, we risk lost opportunity from those insights that those connections could make. So the next step is looking beyond these data sets and exploring how they relate to the rest of our business. All right, so do we have anyone here from Las Vegas? One person. All right, so the rest of you all are going to have expense reports to file when you get back, right? Every organization has travel and expense data. And ours originates in Concur and Ingencia. And not too long ago, we were looking at the question of how best to bring that data into our data warehouse. So the addition of one new data source, such as agencia data, can light up a number of new opportunities within the larger data landscape. But we didn't jump right in to adding the data to the data warehouse. I want to show you what we did.
Yes.
All right, we got Tableau. So I'm going to connect to an Excel file of data that I pulled down from our agencia website. Right here, travel data. And voila, into Tableau, just like that. I'm going to union my data together from 4 years and drag it out into the view. And just like that, I have it in Tableau. So one of the questions that we want to ask is how our expenses change over time in regards to travel. So I'm going to grab transaction amount and bring it out into the view. It's working.
Hyper, hyper.
Let's see, there it goes. You know any good jokes while we wait? Any maybe about cows? All right. So we have the data in Excel. I'm going to change this to a bar chart just so we can see it a little better. There we go. And I want to look at this data over time. So I'm going to grab transaction date and time. Looks like I need to change it to a date. And I'm going to bring it out into the view. And just like that, I have data across. Now, I don't know why there's all those nulls there. So we're just going to go with it. We'll explore that later. All right, so right now I'm just going to exclude that data and look at 2013 through 2016 data.
We must have the Maestro data set, I think.
Yeah. Where's Maestro when you need it? All right, and what I really want to know is where this data is being, or where this money is being spent in our company. If I pull out department, let's see, we'll put it on color. You'll see, I'm just going to get this list of numbers that I know absolutely nothing about. Do you know what our cost number is?
Well, first, I'm colorblind, so no.
All right. So I need to take this data further to do analysis. I don't have the information I need in my data to get to the answer I want.
So, button push. So the type of just diving in and starting that Ashley kicked off for us here, that's the type of usage we see on a daily basis by employees all across Tableau. We see it from folks that are embedded in the business units. It's not just our analytics team, it's folks across the company. Because like I said earlier, we want people that are closest to the actual data to be the ones that are interacting with it first. This here is, you can't drill all the way into, there's my little thing, into all those little boxes there. But this here is internal data source connections and data platform connections at Tableau. We have over 30 that people connect to on a very regular basis that are not in our enterprise data warehouse. So if I blocked all of these from getting into the hands of the end users, I'd have a bunch of unhappy end users. So some of you might see this and say, Jason, you have a bunch of chaos in your Tableau server. I don't see chaos, I see a bunch of progress. Because nobody's like standing in line. This was the line I stood in to check into the hotel on Sunday. From, let's see, from here to there was about 45 minutes. If I put all my end users and their 30 plus data sources in a line, they would just be waiting, growing more and more unhappy, and we would never know what data is more valuable. Because what's more important? Is it travel data? Is it finance data? Is it CRM data? Is it fill in the blank. We don't want to wait to value any of that data. We want to get it in people's hands as soon as possible. Which brings us to our second principle. Beyond creating, let's just jump in and start analyzing. Let's use that same bias for action that we took to create and get started and dive in and start looking at cross-database joins. Let's look at data blending. Let's share on Tableau server with other folks in our group. Ashley said earlier, we don't have to wait for perfect, so let's jump in, dive in, start analyzing.
All right. So what I want to do is I want to be able to combine my travel data with my employee data. I want to know who is spending the money and where that money is being spent. So I'm going to connect to another data source. And this is actually a data source on our server that we pull out through Alteryx and push up to Tableau server. I have it in CSV here because I was worried about the Wi-Fi network. But just imagine this is a data source on our server. All right, and Tableau immediately tells me I need to take a look at this join. And I think somewhere in here there is employee. No. Traveler. Does someone see it? Traveler email address. That is what I am looking for. All right, and I have email in my data set. This data set that we're now bringing in, it was actually created by our HR team with a little bit of help from us. So go back to the view. And immediately, did you see what happened to the axis? It like quadrupled. Maybe more than that. And that's because I'm on a Mac, because I can't actually do the join I want. So bear with me just a moment while I do it in a calculation. Why don't you talk?
Sure, I can talk.
It's like a lot of pressure.
Everybody, quick,
so
look over
small.
there. They told us we were going to be in a room of about 30, so I think that was just to make us feel better.
All right, so I'm going to borrow this transaction. If I was building this on a PC, I would be able to do, or connected to actually SQL, I would be able to do a less than or equal to. So we're just going to apply this filter here really quick. Create calculated field.
I think this is just making everybody in the room feel better that they go through the same stuff we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so often our end users have these questions as well, and that's why we have our own internal Alpo Doctor program, so they can come ask us, hey, what's wrong with this? So it's a good plug for that. So I am just going to apply this and keep my true values, and there we go. That's a much better amount of money. All right. Now I have my data together, and now I can look at my data by department. So I can grab department from the view and replace by year. Department group. And there you go. I understand that our sales and customer solutions team are spending the most on travel, which is where I would want people to be spending money if we were going to spend it on travel. Oh, sorry. Too many tabs.
Too many buttons. There we go.
By allowing users to connect to new applications or sources, we see a web start to develop, and connections across data sources emerge. More connections mean a more robust and cohesive ecosystem of data that better reflects the organization and its needs.
So from my perspective, this is exploration. It might not be going to Mars, but it's exploration of diverse data sets. We've been able to, like the elephants, create context in our path and start to iterate forward. We've taken travel data and we've joined it with HR data. And now we have new relationships that we didn't necessarily knew existed before this. And this is all done without engaging IT. There was probably a lot more IT involved in creating this Mars rover. Ashley was able to do this without talking to a data engineer, a DBA, or any sort of Tableau server admin. The reason that works for us really comes down to trust. There's a partnership that happens between IT and the business units where we know that they're going to be making good decisions, but bringing us along on that journey and embracing the culture of discovery. Remember the data sources, the 30+ data sources? If I just said no to all of these, that wouldn't be trust. That wouldn't be a two-way street. For us, trust is teamwork. It's like the Seahawks. When the Seahawks have the offense and the defense clicking, we win championships. When they're not, Russell Wilson gets sacked 8 times in a game. We don't want our business users getting sacked.
So let's see how our team does when we take both the travel and HR data and bring in one of our most popular warehouse data sets, sales performance. Again, I have a saved local copy on my computer.
Conference Wi-Fi never goes down, right? So I don't know why we're paranoid about that.
All right. So, let's see. Sales opportunity right there. So if we were back home, I would have connected up to Tableau server and just pulled down that published data source to my workbook. And now I can define a relationship between these. So I can go up to Data, Edit Relationships, and customize how I want to do a blend. So in here, I'm going to search Salesforce user ID, which, believe it or not, was actually in that data set to begin with. And I am going to add in account owner ID. I'm going to click OK. And there you go. Now my data is blended together, or it's working on it, back there in the back. I really need hyper. All right, so I'm only going to look at my customer solutions and my sales data. So I'm going to keep only. I'm going to remove group from the view. And I'm going to reach across to my sales opportunity data source. I need to go make that blend on account owner ID. And you can see there's this little icon right here. If you're not familiar with it, it looks like a broken paperclip. If I click it, I now can blend across existing data sources. And this is how you can access data from your Tableau server if you need to join it to anything else for analysis. Now I can bring out my account owner into the view. Remember, I have a bunch of data in here that isn't sales, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And now I can see how all of my account owners are spending their travel dollars. So I can sort it from bottom to top. Maybe. All right, well, we won't. But what I really want to know is, do the dollars they're spending on travel actually result in sales for the company? So I am going to pull out a couple of fields. I need to know that that the opportunity is during this window, right? Like 2013 to 2016. So I'm going to say range of dates, actually. And I'm going to say 2013, that looks right. I don't want 2022. I actually want 2016.
2003.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Eyes better than mine.
Good
All right.
catch. You get a prize.
All right. So I'm going to go from 2013 to 2016 on my data. And I only want to see opportunities that were won. And now I can pull out, amplified billing into the view. And right there in the same view, I can see how much they sold and how much they spent. I'm going to move account owner. I want to see these all in the same view, so I'm going to move account owner to my detail shelf and amplify bookings down to rows. And I'm going to change my mark type to a circle. And now I have a distribution of how people are spending money and the result in the company.
I think we need to talk to some people.
Yeah. So people up here that are further off the axis down here are spending a lot of money without a lot of return. So I'm going to add them into, get all of them, into a group. And I'm going to use a set. Who knows what a set is? A couple people. So sets are really powerful. Sets allow you to sort of mark the data to come back and put it in another view and analyze it. So, and all of a sudden it's not working. My set icon's not gone. Well, I'm going to say keep only then. All right. So now I have all of these data, these people in the organization that we need to talk to. Instead of sending out an email to the whole company about how we need to rein in expenses and make everyone worried that the company's maybe not doing well, I can go target my messaging to these people. So I can pull out manager into the view. Manager into the view, and I can pull out account owner into the view. And I know exactly who we need to talk to in the company to rein in expenses. We've taken that travel data all the way from a downloaded CSV file from Agencia, blended it with HR data, created some calculations, and then we can publish it as a shared data source up to our server for others to use.
And what allows Ashley to dive in and just start analyzing is that culture that we've talked about and the trust that comes along with what we think of as data governance. For us, data governance isn't a wall. It isn't saying no. It's how do we use live and published data sources more effectively? It's how do we get people to explore data? And how do we get IT out of the way from getting started and bring IT back in when we can have gains in performance or security or context or just overall support?
In our example, performance isn't that bad. We know the data is accurate and the context is inherent. But what I need is support.
Finally, the data warehouse can do something. Aren't your data warehouse teams just sitting around doing nothing all the time?
I've done this analysis and shared it with the sales team, and now our sales leadership is clamoring for more. They ask, can I get this daily? I sent this to the chief marketing officer, and she loves it. She wants to see it by sub-team. Gaining adoption with solid insights comes easily, but as a business user, I don't necessarily want to be on the operational hook for maintaining this forever. My goal was speed to insight, not scalability, which is why our third principle is to evolve.
Remember this? Yeah, we all love this process. The excruciating, extensive modeling that takes weeks and months. This isn't progress or evolution. To me, this is just torture. Data modeling and data warehousing are important tools in our tool belt, but they're not the only hammer that we use for every single nail. So, as Ashley has been showing us different stuff in Tableau about how to blend data and create context, she's been doing something else. She's been really modeling her data along the way. Don't you love using somebody else's computer?
It's like really small when they plugged it in. So like, good luck.
Thank you.
Reading it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So she's shown us dimensions and measures across various data sets. She's shown us in the data source tab, she has shown us a bouncy spinny ball. She's shown us the relationships between diverse data sets, relationships that would come out over weeks of modeling conversations. Am I in the wrong workbook?
No.
No?
Well, no, that's the one you should be in.
You wanted me to connect to SQL Server.
I don't know.
Okay. Live troubleshooting, everybody's favorite in a breakout session. Anyway, I'm going to cancel that. So she showed us dimensions, she showed us measures, she showed us the data sources that she wants to use. But one of my favorite things is one of our lesser used features. Who here knows about describe sheet? Okay, like 6 of you. You're going to go back to work on Friday or Wednesday, whenever your hangover goes away, and you're going to use worksheet. Oh, where'd that go? Worksheet.
You're now on a new sheet.
I'm now on a new sheet. Again, someone else's laptop, always fun. Worksheet, describe sheet. Simple as that. What I love about this for data modelers, for analysts, for anyone in the company that needs to know more about how we structure and use our data internally, the describe sheet dialog shows us all of the facts and dimensions that were used in Ashley's viz. They show filters. They show how she created any calculated fields are going to show up in this definition here. This is my spec. I can take this, copy it out to my wiki or whatever we use for document storage, and this is the starting point for our modeling conversations. We don't have to start from scratch when we go and talk to Ashley about how we're going to integrate this into the data warehouse. This, in a couple of conversations, my dev team is ready to get cracking.
And think of the time that saves me, the business user. I don't have 3 meetings with various people to repeat everything that I already told the first person. And I don't have to guess at how I'm going to use the data or be questioned about the priority.
Now, in exchange for working with IT, she has to have something in return. So at Tableau, what she gets in return is she doesn't have to manage CSV files or Excel spreadsheets. She gets performant data. She gets fully modeled data, and it's monitored and has guaranteed uptimes. Plus, once we bring it into the data warehouse, now 100% of our user base is lit up with new opportunities for insight and action.
And importantly, this process scales with our business. As we grow our products and customers, we need to scale not just our infrastructure, but our processes and our social contracts with each other as well. We can't serve you, our customers, unless we're thinking dynamically about our own business. And we can't do that if we're constantly in the requirement and planning stages of development. The reason our sales, account, and support teams are able to help you so much is because of our belief in this culture.
And this culture and the change required to get it in place, understandably, can create a lot of fear. So we're going to collect a little bit more data. How does this make you feel? Are you anxious? A little uncomfortable? Who here has an uncomfortable amount of juice left in your phone right now? Okay, you were playing Candy Crush this whole time, weren't you? I'm watching you.
Okay, so how about this? Does this make you feel a little better? All we did was get to a safe place. In this case, we have a charger. Unfortunately, I don't have a quick fix for all your fares, but if I can't. Sorry, but we can talk about some of the common fears that we had that we either rationalized or mitigated. We all have security, governance, and compliance requirements. Public company, nonprofit, government entity, with the state of data security these days, is a common fear. At Tableau, by encouraging the usage of Tableau Server, we get insights into the various data sources being published, who's using them, and where I have the most exposure to our business. Our InfoSec team is a critical partner, and they use vizzes like this to stay up to date on our data via data-driven alerts.
I'll let him take his picture.
All right. But what about poor performance and dragging down our Tableau server? Here at Tableau, our DBAs and server admin teams use additional data to monitor what's going on with our servers, our data sets, and our users at any given time. If latency starts increasing, then we start to drill into root causes. Our data engineering team monitors our data warehouse to look for resource-hungry queries that are repeated often. If an end user sends a resource-intensive query to our data warehouse, our SQL server, they get a nice email in response, letting them know actionable steps that they can take to improve their query performance and helping prevent performance problems for everyone. We help these users identify where in Tableau's server that their query is coming from, and both our analytics and engineering teams reach out to the workbook or data source owner to discuss what's needed, what's desired, if they have any other input besides things around their slow query. The analytics team advises on known quick fixes for changing workbook designs to trigger a differently formatted query from Tableau to see if the database's current design handles that better for the short term. And the database team is now working longer term with our power users and teams like sales operations to adjust database design, make materialized views, so that the database's reporting design stays in alignment with how the business is querying in that year or quarter. Yeah. Yeah. We actually have about 12 different iterations of it.
They rotate.
They rotate. I didn't think it would be big enough to see, so I didn't put them all up there. But oftentimes people will send the same query, so they'll get a different response back.
That way you can't block it.
Yeah.
Back on that last slide there, is the read uncommitted data, is that equivalent to the equivalent no block in SQL?
I believe so. It's the leading cause of slow queries. All they have to do is check that read uncommitted data, and it will really free up the performance for themselves or other users.
So finally, there's this fear of making bad decisions. I'm going to have a little honesty time with the crowd. I used to work in a role at a different company where in addition to data, I also managed corporate IT. And one of the things that I managed was phones. And we had an aging phone infrastructure that I thought as the young hotshot that I'm going to get this VoIP thing installed. Cloud, who can go wrong? I had all the data I needed to light up all of our offices around the country. We had remote salespeople around the globe. Everything was going great. We were getting rave reviews from the different offices about connectivity and uptime and call quality. Now, one thing I forgot to take into account with my data was our call center in the Midwest. Now, what's one thing that call centers really need? Phones. And when you don't have last mile service from the VoIP provider to the call center, that's kind of a problem. So I went into this having what I thought was all the data to make the decision, yet I still made a bad decision. And that's what's happening in all of our organizations. Whether or not you think you have data warehouses, you do. That didn't make any sense. Whether or not you think you have shadow data warehouses, you do. And people are going to make decisions whether you give them approved data or not. The reason this slide is blank is it represents all of those decisions that are being made in your organization without your knowledge and without data. Also, there's not a great image that supports what I'm trying to say. So this here is the open space that we have to drive forward a better handle on decision making that's going on, because I would rather know who's making what decisions with their own data, help them refine that along the way, and then have a bunch of unknown, you'd think I practiced, then have a bunch of unknowns, half-truths, and gut feel decisions being made. So does Tableau do all of the work for you? Not at all. Can it replace all of your fears? Again, no. But using Tableau Desktop in conjunction with Tableau Server gives us enough mitigation and resiliency around our fears that we feel there are more benefits than negatives to giving people access to data as soon as possible. It also gets us out of that chicken and egg game of how do we prove the value of something before we ingest it and have a bunch of data sources sitting on the sidelines. This create, analyze, evolve mindset isn't something that has to wait. This is something you can start right here and right now.
So how do you get started? You go back to your office tomorrow. Well, probably not on Friday. Probably not Friday either. Like sometime next week. And you take a look at your backlog, everything that's sitting there waiting to be worked on. And reach out and look for that aging data source, the one that's been there a long time but could provide value to someone. Let go of the perfect and just start creating with it. Find a way to connect with it and get creative. This could be you or it could be someone you identify in your organization, but allow them the freedom to create, to drive that adoption and analysis, because evolution is a process and it isn't overnight. Allow your data models to evolve and your business will as well. And so thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming.
We're a data company, so please make sure you fill out this survey. We actually really do look at the data to make decisions for next year.